All right, what's up, everyone? I am back, Kevin Allen, aka the Geek. I'm here to look back at the week that was, week 11, week 10. I don't even know what fucking week it is. But I'm here to look back at the week that was and discuss my cash game lineup, how it came together, how my content from last week kind of all led up to this, and of course the big top four finish in the round two King of the Beach Draftkings qualifier. Buenvenido a Miami. I am going to, I was going to play the song at the beginning of this video, a little party on the beach in the break of dawn and do all that stuff. You know what I'm saying? But YouTube has weird rules about playing, other content on these videos. You can't play it or it would get knocked out. So, couldn't do that. But I want to talk to you guys, and what's up, everyone? I see you in the comments. We're going to get to a little Q&A as well. But I wanted to talk about, and Hunter was with me. Actually, Hunter Sinclair, he's here in the comment section. Man, he lived this shit with me a lot closer than a lot of you guys even know. We were kind of discussing this back and forth all the way up until log. And I want to show you how this lineup came together. I did something that I never do. I did something really different this week, and I really liked it. And I think I'm going to do the same thing next week, where knowing that I had this very, very important lineup to get through, I had qualified for the King of the Beach. It's a $10,000 ticket. I think I got in on like a $60 entry or something like that. I think I beat out like 500 people and a $60. I don't remember exactly how it came together, but I'm qualified for the King of the Beach. That's a $10,000 value ticket. And the way this contest works is there's a part two of the qualifier. So 200 people get an initial ticket. Then there's a part two that whittles the 200 down to the top 75. The top 75 move on to the live portion in Miami. So this is the promotional page on DraftKings website. Touchdowns, interceptions, umbrellas, and drinks, blah, blah, blah. Private contest, whoop-de-doo. But here's the payout. So in the live final, which is a 4-day event, I actually got the flyer from DraftKings. It looks pretty cool. They have like a welcome party when you get there on Thursday. On Friday, they have some sort of excursion that you can choose from. They have airboating and deep sea fishing and, go-karting and or spa treatments, whatever you're into for Friday. Saturday, research all day, study all day, all that good stuff. And then they have a concert kind of party thing going on Saturday night. And then, of course, Sunday is the big event, and you kind of go to this live watch party. I think they actually require you to be there in order to sort of be in it or have a proxy there. They want somebody to stand at the end holding up a check. Let's hope it's me. 200,000. Now, one cool thing about this contest before I get into the lineup and how it came together, this is an awesome story. And I really think that today's video is going to help a lot of people with their process. I really do. A lot of you were with me all of last week through the very long Players Club video. And if you did, you learned how to become a better daily fantasy sports player if you just watched that video, because I taught one of my most, I think it's for me, my most basic techniques. But one of these things that actually I got a lot of feedback that people are like, dude, I didn't know this, or I never do this that way, where I start my lineup with all of the best value plays that I can find and then build up from there, rather than most people who jam in a couple of studs and then figure out what works. So it's a little bit of a backwards method of making the lineup for a lot of people. It's how I always make my lineups, but it's interesting. It was interesting to learn that that was a backwards method for a lot of people. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. Before I get to that, I just want to mention this prize structure. Thank you. This is a beautiful prize structure, guys. So one of the nice things, I've been in the MMA finals, the last two of them that happened. I had 3 tickets in the last one. Awesome. But the difference between that one and this one. So this contest is not top heavy at all. Like, this is beautiful. 200,000 for first, 150 second, 300, 100 for third, fourth is 70. Like, the drop off is not crazy extreme. 11 through 15, 15 grand. Like, sure, if you come in last place. Now, we're just talking the top 75 are going to be there. So the worst case scenario, there she is. The worst case scenario is $5,000. You come in the bottom of the, okay. As you move up from the top 75 group, you'll see that, the payouts are pretty good on this contest. So I really like the structure. They could have done it where they jam like 500,000 to first and then just like, make it shit for almost everybody else, like most of these live finals do, because they want to do, they want to kind of have a top heavy prize and have somebody holding up a $500,000 check and, hey, look, blah, blah, blah. But instead they made this very, very contestant friendly, which I love. So very important. Payout structures are important. This is the type of qualifier that people should attack because the payouts are so nice. Like I said, the MMA one that DraftKings does is horrible. It's 150,000, they 50 to first, 30 to second. There's like nothing left for anyone else. So totally different situation. Really, really impressed by this. Now, let's take a look at the lineup. Party in the beach in the early morning. Welcome to Miami. All right, how do we get there? Now, you see me all cool, calm, and collected today, but man, I was nervous as fuck leading into this thing. And part of my process last week was I decided, you know what? I'm not going to MME. I'm not going to mass multi-enter. I'm not going to like spend a lot of my energy doing like a lot of the things that I do every single week. Kind of wish I did mass multi-enter, but no. Kind of a little bit. It was a good week for MME, but no. It was a good week for what I thought, but no. All right, but I didn't, so it doesn't matter. What would have happened? I don't know. Didn't do it. Instead, I spent most of my week really focused on one lineup. And the way I do that is, over the course of the week on DraftKings, I just kind of hammered out these different lineups that I liked, right? Different approaches. The big consideration last week, guys, yeah, it was week 11. All right, I'm just making sure I got that right. The big consideration last week was, we had some interesting value plays turn up. We had some incredible looking pay up spots that we wanted to get involved with. And the question was how to squeeze it all together. Okay? So initially, and you're looking at my pick sheet here, the most obvious play and I'm going to actually look at ownerships in the contest for comparison purposes. I want everybody to understand, what sharp players did and what they do. And you're going to see these approaches like that you did also. And you're going to see really sharp players did something similar, right? So I have the contest up here and I'm going to show ownerships. I'm going to explain everything. I'm going to show ownership. What did the Chess is okay. Somebody mentioned he's a very sharp player, right? He's very sharp. Played Sanders. We'll get into it. But I'm going to show you why a lot of these lineups came together. I can tell that looking at this, he did almost as good as you could with a Lamar Jackson lineup. Lamar Jackson did great. I used Jeff Driscoll. Only 6% used Jeff Driscoll. Why? They didn't have the fucking balls to follow the projections. I'm going to go over all of this. But I talked about it for everybody who's here, who follows my videos, who watched the Players Club on Saturday. I think it was the best I've ever done. I really do. If you guys didn't see it, I want you to really go back and watch it. I think it was the best Players Club video I've ever done because we showed this bottom-up build where I said, here's all my favorite values. I believe Jeff Driscoll was one of them. And I discussed him. I also discussed Miles Sanders, Brian Hill, some reservations I had specifically about Hill. I liked Sanders. He was in my lineup up until the last second. I've got so much to go over. And how the final lineup, you guys, it'll blow your mind. Hunter, he's out there, he's watching, he knows. There was a lot of last minute tinkering and switching that went on. All right. Oh, yes, that's right, OG. 2 hours and 41-minute video. Some people are like, fuck that. I don't want to watch that. Who the locks? I don't want to watch that shit. Who the locks? But you know something? If you want Yeah, my pod got me on. Thank you guys. I'm so happy to hear this shit. I really am, because when I'm talking for 2 hours and 40 minutes, I'm not even sure what the fuck I'm saying half the time. Like, I'm like, did I mention it? I don't remember. It's a lot of content. It's a lot to talk about. I know who I like. I'm like, I must have talked about this guy, right? So why did that come together? Why did you use these players? So let me just start at the beginning. We're going to look at. I'm having a hard time actually figuring out what screen to show to really talk about this. But just overall, we knew a couple of things. We knew, for example, that Lamar Jackson was going to fucking crush. We knew this, but he was very expensive at 7,700. So that's fine. In cash games, you want to lock in the points, right? But I also knew that if I used Lamar Jackson, there were two other players that we knew were going to crush. And I actually counted out the numbers. On the Players Club, I said Lamar Jackson, 30 points, Christian McCaffrey, 30 points, Michael Thomas, 30 points. I figured I'm going to need about 150 to get through the contest. So I was like, all right, if I can count on 90 points out of these three, but I spend that much money, can I find another 60 points out of the other spots in my lineup that are all going to be very, 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 very difficult? Hunter was with me because we were going back and forth. Hunter has been, I believe, to the King of the Beach before. And we were just doing a little back and forth. I was talking to Burns as well. He was in the contest, and kind of we were talking about our lineups and our approach. So there's a few people I was chatting to behind the scenes, just kind of going over, hey, this is what I think I'm going to do. Hunter was not, and credit to you, did not like throw suggestions at me, and that's the correct way to be. When somebody's having, this is what I try to do. When somebody's doing their process, I don't want to fuck with it. Like, even if you're a DFS Army member, a lot of people want to lean on, hey, I'm in this. This is your chance, and I don't want to fuck with it. So a lot of times what I do is, yeah, it sounds good. You don't want to mess with it too much. And that was a good call on Hunter's part. He didn't mess with it. He just, oh, okay, cool. Oh, this is where you're going to go? All right, cool. So where'd it come together? I knew those three players could each score 30 fantasy points, but with Lamar Jackson in, the rest of the lineup really had to do a lot of punting, right? The other player that I was locked in on. So let me go back to my lineup, and I'll just show you who I was locked in on. I mean, I was absolutely locked in on Josh Jacobs. I was absolutely locked in on Cardinals defense. These were going to happen. Now, with Cardinals defense, I almost switched off of Josh Jacobs too, but with Cardinals defense, it was just, they were the cheapest. It was $1,500. I talked about it on the Players Club. I talked about it. It's in my Geeks pick sheet. They were the cheapest. And it wasn't just that they were the cheapest. The next reasonable pay down option, and I just mean reasonable, was the Saints at 29. And the Saints did fine. I liked the Raiders a bit. I liked the Vikings a lot. Didn't work. I liked the Patriots. Okay. 49ers didn't work. But this is the lesson. You pay up for a defense. Defense is so volatile. And you start paying up for one, you're fucking your lineup in a cash game like this. And this was a cash game for me, right? I have to beat out about half of the contestants. That was a cash game. If I spend that, I knew if we spend that salary, we're dead. So I said with the Cardinals, fuck it. Even if I get 2 or 3 fantasy points, okay. Why? Because I saved $1,500 in salary over the next person. So anybody who didn't use these guys better damn well get 12, 15, 18 points. And that is so unpredictable that I said, fuck that. Why would I spend up? Now, if I'm trying to win a tournament, Kangar's got a great question. I'm going to get to it. I'll tell you why I did that. And it was not because of wide receiver volatility. It was because I thought there was better value at wide receiver than there was at running back. So when I looked at the running backs that you had to pay down for, I liked some of the wide receivers that I could get for cheaper. And this is a big part. I'm going to show you some of my process as I go through this because the projections were key. I used and the Ryan Griffin part. I'm seeing a question about that too, guys. I'll get to that also. And this was just actually, I can't believe I played Ryan Griffin even now. I can't, and that it worked. But I'm going to tell you how that came together. But let me start just with the overall of the lineup and how it came, because this was my cash lineup. By the way, I ran it out in other. When I do a cash lineup, I run it in high dollar entries. So this is the $150. Oh, this is the millionaire. No, where is it? This is the $150 power sweep. That's the kind of contest I put my cash lineup in. 1,000 entrants. I came in 9th place. Man, we had a shot. We had a legit shot. There was a swap I could have made. There was a swap that I was thinking of making that I think would have brought it all together. But it was not the Jets fan in me. People ask me, why did you play the running back? Was it the Jets fan? It wasn't. I don't allow my fandom to do anything. But Josh, yes, he did. Thank you, Sohail, for mentioning that. Number one, when Josh puts a player as a core, I'm listening. When he puts a player as a core, I'm listening. I'm like, Josh fucking likes this guy. Let me look twice. But I had come onto Griffin. He was in my first lineup that I made this week, which is amazing. Then on my Tuesday first look lineup, I'll get to him. But mainly it was because I saw the Griffin had just been getting a lot of targets. The other guy for the Jets who had been injured, came off injury last week. He got a bunch of targets. He gets hurt again in game. So now it was back to Griffin. Griffin hadn't been priced up. But what I noticed was the Jets were just throwing to the tight end a lot. That's what was going on. I forget the other guy's name. Sorry. He's injured. Fuck him. He's dead to me. But there was a guy on the Jets that was supposed to be the big time tight end. He finally gets healthy. He plays last week. He gets like 7 or 8 targets. Did great. Gets hurt at the end of the game. So I'm like, fuck it. I'm going back to Griffin. If they treat him anything like this at 2,900, I'm good. I'm good to go. Was I expecting 100 yards and a touchdown? Hell no. Chris Herndon, there you go. I love having people in chat. Wait, Hunter's in. Hold on a second. He's in the power sweep. So this was the other lineup I had made. And that nice, because I told Hunter kind of what I was doing, and he's like, I'm going to roll it with you. So you want to talk about 153 still makes the cut. So my last minute swaps did help, but this is great. So this is a great example, and I'm glad it's here. This is a great example. This was my lineup going into the contest, and with 5 minutes to spare. So just to go over it, I had finally decided on Jeff Driscoll, and I'm going to show you some reasons why. But mainly, it was between Driscoll and Allen for me. I knew I wanted to pay down. I said, you know what? Fuck this. I'm paying down at quarterback because I want more firepower in this lineup at wide receiver and at the other running back spot. So I knew in this one, I could pay down for Driscoll. I can get McCaffrey and Michael Thomas together. And again, I did this math on the Players Club. 30, 60, 90, 100, 120. And I'm like, all right, Dede Westbrook, how much can you get me? No Deebo Samuel here. Mohamed Sanu. I liked Sanu. See, sometimes when you like someone, sometimes things work out. Josh Jacobs, 25. I had this math. And then at the last second, I was staring at Miles Sanders and thinking, not that he's not a good play. He was a very good play. He was 45% owned in high dollar contests. He's not a bum. He's a good player. But the matchup was bothering me. And I started to think about how I want players in good matchups in this lineup, right? Because the number one thing I always regret is playing players because of value, but in a bad matchup. I had already eliminated Brian Hill from consideration. That's an important part here, because you guys are going to ask, why didn't you use Brian Hill? He was the ultimate value play. And oh, by the way, he was massively owned. Let me see if I can almost click on anyone and you'll find a Brian Hill lineup. Let's see. There he is. 51% owned in the contest. He got 4.8 points. Kevin, why didn't you use Brian Hill? You love pay down running backs. He was on your list early in the week. This is the Geeks pick sheet. Okay. Brian Hill's on there. Miles Sanders on there. They're on there. Just say, what brought you off of these guys? Well, Brian Hill was something I talked about on the Players Club pod, which was I normally don't like I normally don't like Devonta Freeman because the Falcons are not a team that produces consistent fantasy points to the running back position, right? Certain teams consistently produce via the running back and certain don't. You want to ask me why? I don't fucking know. They have offenses that either flow through the running back or they don't. There are teams that always produce via the running back no matter who's back there. We've seen it with the Chargers. They always produce. Doesn't matter who. Not every game, but as a general offense, they do. Yes, Sohel's right. I talked about FanDuel. Even in the write-up here, his salary's cheaper on FanDuel compared to DraftKings. Without a touchdown, he's unlikely he will make or exceed value. Now, when I'm taking a turd running back, I want to pay down more than $5K. So, like on DraftKings, I played him. On FanDuel, I played him in my high-dollar lineup, and the lineup cashed anyway. Or I played Sanders, one of him or the other one. Lineup cashed anyway. But on DraftKings, I said, the whole notch on this guy is he never caught passes. He didn't catch many passes in college. He was not a pass catcher. They had to teach him that skill, et cetera, et cetera. Then I was looking at the log, and even though Hill got a bunch of carries, it was a really weird game script last week, and he got a bunch of carries, but he was being taken out for Kenjon Barner on passing plays. So I was like, they don't consider this guy a pass catcher. And once sort of that became obvious, the touting of him was just like, well, he had 20 carry. We got to play him, but I don't like it. There's a lot of hold your nose and play this guy stuff going on. And I started to think, this is where the swap that Hunter was talking about came together. So I'm looking at him, Brian Hill. I already knew I didn't want it, but I'm having these same thoughts at that point. Where am I? This is the one I want, right? Okay. Yeah, I'm having these same thoughts about Miles Sanders. I'm thinking Miles Sanders, and here's the other lineup, the alternate lineup that I actually had before we went in. So I was thinking Miles Sanders, I like him, but he's going to get the full run, but it's not a good matchup. It's against the Patriots. Like, do you really want to play? Yeah. Huli's, yeah, that's right. I don't have those notes up in front of me. I only open mine up. But yes, Barner and Olesen, but the big thing for me was I don't even like Devonta Freeman when he's the starter and he's playing for $5K. So for a couple hundred less, I didn't think the discount was good enough. Realistically, that was my issue with Hill. Now with Miles Sanders, I like Miles Sanders. I thought he checked out well in this game. I don't blame 45% of the sharp players. And when you see this, I just want to point this out. Part of our job in DFS Army, part of my job, and when you ask me, why didn't you tell me to fade this fucking guy? Why didn't you tell me not to play all of these players? Because our job is partially to point out these players are 50% owned for good reason. So if a 50% owned player goes off, the question should be, why the fuck didn't you tell me? Everybody else knew about this guy. Why didn't I know about this guy? Like, what site should I belong to that would have given me this information that this guy's a good play? Now, we've been the opposite this year. When too few people went all in on Jalen Samuels, we were all in. 33% the field, we were 100%. When too few people went all in on Lats Murray when Kamara was out, we were all in. Again, field, 20, 30%, we were 100% exposed that week. Now, here we had Brian Hill / Miles Sanders chalk week. And you could see here that in the big contest, both of those guys were 50% owned. So I'm looking at this lineup and I said, I think I can get leverage on the field by paying up at my 3 running back positions instead of using Miles Sanders and then like grabbing one slightly more expensive or less mediocre wide receiver. And that was the kicker. So at that point, I pull out Michael Thomas. I put in Dalvin Cook. That's how the lineup came together. I pull out Michael Thomas. I put in Dalvin Cook. I upgrade from Sanu to DJ Moore. And then I had to fill it out with Deebo Samuel. Now, here's what I wanted to show the most. Part of what I'm doing, aside from my sheet, is I'm comparing things to projections. This is the part that a lot of people miss, and this is the most important. I'm sorry, I'm 25 minutes in. I had to give some background. But so as I'm agonizing over this lineup, what I'm doing is I'm jumping over to the domination station to look at our DFS Army projection system, right? And I want to show you how I do it, because this is the thing that's going to blow your minds in its simplicity. This is the secret that no one tells. I'm going to give you the secret. Projections are very, very important. This is the secret that no one tells. Projections are very, very important. Projections are not arbitrary numbers. Look at the game total. You look at the percentage share of offense that goes to each player, and on average from this quarterback, what boost they get from opposing defense, and you get these numbers, okay? And I want to show you, let me do the normal sort. Okay, you're looking at quarterback, right? I'm on the quarterback on domination station. You're looking through it. Okay, Lamar Jackson looks good, 24 points, 23. Looking through all these numbers, great. They look pretty good, blah, blah, blah. Right? Look at this, 20 points. Okay, a little higher, a little lower. You're looking at somebody, Derek Carr, 19.57, et cetera, et cetera. 18 points. Ooh, Kyle Allen in a good spot. So my first thought early in the week was Kyle Allen. He's in a good spot against Atlanta. Two factors took me off of Kyle Allen. Number one, he wasn't cheap enough. 5,300. It was a good pay down, especially from Lamar Jackson. Good savings, but it wasn't that much. And Kyle Allen's history didn't look spectacular, but the biggest one was twofold. I'd already started to get off of Kyle Allen during the Players Club and during the Wolfpack podcast, where I talked to Stats and John and Big Marley about this, how the one thing that concerns me about Kyle Allen, and this wasn't even the issue, but there were two things that concern me. But the big one was, number one was, he's a quarterback that could have all of his production sucked away by Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey is that dominant of a red zone back that if he is able to run in the end zone, if he was able to run in the end zone, Michael, I'm going to address this. Thank you for writing that. Michael writes, I used Driscoll in my cash lineup by using our Vegas live odds. Hell yeah. It predicted a close game. Hell yeah, they did. Figured Driscoll would be good. Something I talked about on the Dom. But let me tell you how I got off of Kyle Allen first. So I said, number one, Christian McCaffrey can suck up all of the touchdowns for this guy. And when I was comparing him to Driscoll, and this, Michael, goes to your point, when I was comparing him to Driscoll, I said, the Lions are projected for 20 points in this spot. The Lions do not have a running back on the team. There's no one on the roster. Now, when I say there's no one, I know about Bo Scarborough. I know about the other fucking turds. They're all nobodies. There's a difference between a Brian Hill guy or a Bo Scarborough turd that it does not command the football in the red zone as compared to a guy like Christian McCaffrey, who is fully game planned for in the red zone and will suck up all the tutties. Sucking up the tutties. Fucking sucking up the tutties. So at one point I thought, well, if I pair up Allen with McCaffrey, then I'm going to get all the tutties no matter what. Okay, that's an interesting cash game approach. Except Kyle Allen wasn't quite cheap enough to make it super workable. Right? Then I look at Driscoll, and this goes back to Michael's point. I said, and there's a more important part, but I said with Driscoll, I said, you know what? If this team is being projected, and this is something that John Alessia Statsational talks about all the time, if this team is projected to score 20 points, we should believe it. Like, Vegas is smarter than us. Let's believe in them. Let's start there. Now, we can beat them sometimes, but they're smarter than us. So they're saying they're at home. They're not going to get shut out. Okay. That's important. Then I said, all right, the Lions, not a team that's going to run the football into the end zone. They never score via the run. They don't produce quality running back scores. That's the kind of team they are. They score via the pass. So if they score 20 points, how bad could Driscoll really be? He also runs the football. He got 40 rushing yards last week, and he wound up with a nice little group of rushing yards this week. But the rushing yard provides a floor. This guy is not a good thrower. I mean, he didn't throw it well at all, but he got 51 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown. That made all the difference in the world. But I knew that this guy ran the football. Why? Because he did it last week. He scored 19 points at 4,100 the week before. But what's the piece of resistance? I go over to the Dom station, and this is really what I'm like, all right, I'm so fucking biased. My head is spinning at this point. Let the numbers do the talking. So what do? I sort by fantasy points per dollar, and look who pops up number one overall, guys. Look who it is. Your mind is going to be blown when you look at projections. These are not changed. This is what it was. Everybody here who's a DFS Army subscriber who's watching this had these same projections. So I looked at the projection. I said, you know what? This guy's the best value on the board. On a points per dollar basis. He's the best value on the board. That's what I do. Who else popped up? Guys who did well. Jackson, Prescott, Carr did well. Breeze, too easy of a game. Kyle, not so much. But this was the best value. This was the best value on the board. Now, I said, fuck it. I played him. I wanted to be a little different from the field in this contest without being stupid. Going down to him allowed me to make the key move in my cash lineup / and guys, I have more analysis of this one because I spent the entire week thinking only about this lineup. I normally just, I'll throw it together, but I'm mass multi-entering. I'm making GPPs. I'm doing a lot of shit. The whole week was just this lineup. This one and one on FanDuel that I had a high dollar, which cashed. The move allowed me to make a choice between Michael Thomas and Sanders or something else. Now, originally, and I actually love the other version, I started to get onto Kamara for the same reason. So now I jump over to the running back position and I sort again for value. And of course, we have our two turds popping first. There's a reason these guys were 40% owned. Hell yeah, Marley's going down there. Dude, you don't want to be sleeveless in the Everglades, man. Bring some fucking bug spray, my man. Some mosquitoes everywhere. Miles Sanders, Brian Hill, top values, right? We already talked about these two. So I already decided, fuck Brian Hill. Sometimes you could fade the value, right? I was like, fuck this guy. I don't believe they're going to use him in the passing game. Miles Sanders, I liked, but I started to look at this matchup, right? Grade, terrible. DVP, number one. So I said, you know what? And he's in my lineup, and I'm like, why am I playing anyone against the Patriots? Like, this is a defense that's just not going to bleed fantasy points. They're not. So I was like, well, they could throw to, if they're smart, they'll throw to him a bunch of times. They didn't. But I was very nervous. I thought Miles Sanders was a sharp play, and I thought he was the better play than Brian Hill. He was cheaper, 4,100. So if again, the Sanders version I had, no regrets. It would have made it. It makes the show. But I didn't play it. So why? So this was the last second swap. I was looking at the lineup here and I said, man, normally when I want steady production in a cash game, I really like to have really, really good running backs. Or if I play cheap turds, I want them in good spots. Now, Sanders not a turd, he's a good player. Did not get the opportunity. He did fine. I mean, like, he ran well. 2 targets, caught a couple of passes. They just didn't give him volume. No one else got volume. He was the only guy. I like Miles Sanders going forward if Jordan Howard's still out. But this game, it didn't work. Okay. So let's look at the rest of it, though. I want to show you how I use the domination station, especially at the wide receiver position. This is going to blow your fucking minds. So I skipped these two. I knew I didn't. Oh, well, I had Sanders in there. He was the top value on a play. It was hard to say no. Josh Jacobs, we knew we liked him. Didn't score a touchdown. Still did well. If he scores a touchdown, he smashes his value. He still did fine. The running back position didn't do great. Balaj is a complete turd. No way I'm playing him. Raheem Mostert, no thank you. Here is the guy that should have been in the lineup. So here are the next 3. Okay? Kamara, McCaffrey, and Cook. Now, I already knew I'm going to play McCaffrey because when you have a 10-5 player, he's McCaffrey. I knew it right off the bat. Listen, what's the worst case? He didn't score this week. He did shit. He still got 30 fantasy points. He's too good to not play. You don't not play this guy, especially in cash. As you saw when I was counting out the lineup, 30 points. You automatically almost count him in for 30 points. Could it be less? Yes. But you're counting him in for 30. You're like the expectation. He didn't even score. He got 30. This guy gets 100 passing yards and 100 receiving yards, like doubles, like fucking LeBron James. He's out there putting up doubles like a freaking basketball player. It's crazy. So Alvin Kamara was the right play, and I didn't play him. But I talked about why I started to. I actually had him in the lineup. It just didn't occur to me at the last second. So I had him in the lineup at one point. I went up to Cook instead with that last spot. But Kamara was the correct play. Why? Because his salary had come down based on the matchup being perceived bad against Tampa. Tampa's so great against running backs. But the reality is, Alvin Kamara is more of a wide receiver. He does his damage in the wide receiver position, and he was the better points per dollar play. So this was an error on my part. I don't think it hurt me because I think not having him forced me to go to Deebo Samuel. So it was fine, but this was the error on my part. So instead I go to Dalvin Cook. Why? Because he's Dalvin fucking Cook. And I wanted to have stud running backs. Why? And again, why not Michael Thomas? I'm going to show you. So I just decided last second, fuck Miles Sanders. Let me get another quality running back in here. Why? Because the wide receiver position was loaded up with cheap value. And this is where I want to get down. I want to show you how my lineup looks exactly like the value, guys. Look at this. This is the DFS Army projections for wide receiver this week. I sort them by fantasy points per dollar. Now I'm going to tell you, Devontae Parker, for example, crushed value, 20 plus. Deebo Samuel, 24 points, over 100 yards. Michael Thomas did his thing, 30 fantasy points. DJ Moore, 17, barely missed and on a terrible game for his offense, he barely missed getting the bonus for 100 yards. He was at 95, got 17 points, almost over 20. And the final, D.D. Westbrook. Man, you did me wrong. But I played him because I wanted to play the value. Look at the lineup that I used. Look, Deebo, Westbrook, Moore. And this was because I was looking at the domination station, and I'm like, I can get Moore, Westbrook, and Deebo, the three top projected values. They're cheap, and they looked not like turds. Look, we had them. They didn't look like turd plays. These look like very good plays. DJ Moore had been getting 10 targets again. I look at volume. So as I'm constructing the lineup, I'm thinking about volume. Where can I get the most targets? Well, DJ Moore gets 9 to 10 targets every week. What did he get? 15. What? Oh my God. But he's been getting 10, 11, 9, 10. He gets that volume every single week. Deebo Samuel, that's my bag, punk. That's my bag, punk. Coming off of 10 targets, 11 targets. No, even with Manny Sanders. Plus, I knew everybody was going to be on Deebo. I wanted that block. But even with Manny Sanders, 8 receptions, 10 targets, this guy is getting volume like a high dollar player. So I was like, I can get these high volume wide receivers for cheap. I might as well go with a stud running back, especially since I went down to Driscoll. I basically gave up what I thought was the 30 plus fantasy points from Lamar Jackson. Julie's talking about Calvin Ridley. I love Calvin Ridley, but Calvin Ridley is kind of like, John Brown, Calvin Ridley. If you look at my FanDuel, I have Calvin Ridley in my cash because part of my thing, Julie, is it's like I like to compare FanDuel and DraftKings. Ridley is so much cheaper on DraftKings. I don't have it open here, but my FanDuel lineup, my $900 entry into the Super Wildcat, it had Calvin Ridley, of course, but he's so much cheaper there. That was the difference. Yeah. I actually think that Hunter, once Bradbury was in, that Ridley became cash playable for me. No Hooper, no other targets, no Sanu. Ridley actually was kind of cash playable, and other people played him. And again, he normally is. He's normally too boom or bust, and that's why I had this idea in my head that Ridley's not a good cash play on DraftKings, where we want the volume more than the explosiveness a lot of the time. But like I said, on FanDuel, I totally played him in that one lineup I made on. I only made one and it cashed. And I played him, and I had Ridley in there, and I had I think I had DJ Moore, so it was fine. Played Kyle Rudolph at tight end on the other one. It was 4,500. He scored a touchdown. But so this is how the lineup came together, guys. That was it. I just figured these 3 wide receivers were going to get so much volume. I looked at each one of them as potential for 10 targets. And I said, if I can get 10 targets here, then why not just stud up at the running back positions, lock in as much floor as I can, and try to get to part 3 of this contest. I didn't expect to finish 4th place. Now, the final piece was Ryan Griffin. I talked a little bit about him, but I want to show you his logs. And here's what happened. 8 targets, 4 targets, 8 targets. Then last week against the Giants, what happened? Jets brought out a different tight end. I forget Chris Herndon. And Herndon got like 8 targets in the short time he played in the game. Then he gets hurt at the end. So I'm like, this Jets team, they do seem to like to throw to the tight end position, right? They threw it 8 times to Herndon. They don't have quality wide receivers, really. And I know that Adam Gase's style of offense favors tight ends, especially going across the middle. So I just said YOLO for 2,900. This is a shitty week for tight end anyway. I don't want to spend my budget on tight ends. Like I thought about Jared Cook. He did fine. I thought about Greg Olsen. He did fine. Almost every tight end that I was thinking about did fine. Goddard, he did okay. Irv Smith was somebody I talked about. He did fine. Caught a touchdown. So all these cheap guys did okay. But really, Ryan Griffin took the cake. He really crushed it this week. So that's how the lineup came together. Let me jump over to the Geeks pick sheet. I'll just kind of show you guys, especially for anybody who wasn't here. I had Lamar Jackson as a big time play. I didn't love Deshaun Watson that much. He busted. Josh Allen, great GPP play. That's how, that was the Millie Maker winner. Not big fan of Tom Brady. I like Matt Ryan, Kyle Allen, and of course Jeff Driscoll. Using him to fit in Thomas. He's so cheap, we only need 15 to make value. Now, it's funny, I didn't end up playing Thomas, but that's what I had originally thought. Ross Dwelly, Sohail's bench. Yeah, another one. He did great. He was on the list. He did great. If you look at my wide receiver breakdown, I want to get to it because I'll show you how these guys all stood out. Michael Thomas, DJ Moore, 4-star. Michael Thomas, 5-star. Calvin Ridley, 4-star. I don't know how to tell you more to play a guy. Steve, realistically, I liked Dwelly too, my man. I just couldn't afford him in that lineup. Like that lineup only had 31 or 3,200 left for tight end. And the Jets tight end was my cheapest viable tight end in my initial build. And that's kind of where I went with. My taking wife. I'm trying to bring the wife and kids. Apparently, most of these events are 18 and over. And so they're kind of like trying to make me feel weird about trying to bring my kids to this thing. And, if my kids can't go, my wife needs to find somebody to watch. My kids are not little, but they're not going to be home by themselves for the weekend. Like next thing I know, it's like junior high school party at my house. Hell no. So I'm trying to see what I do. I'm trying to see if we can get a babysitter. I'd like to take the family though. I'm not a 30-year-old, like go out to the strip clubs guy, that's not me. So I like hanging out with my family. So we'll see if I can do it. Listen, I have my good times, but my favorite thing is hanging with my wife and kids. Like that's what I like to do the most. So I'm just going through this here. I liked Mohamed Sanu. I did. Mea culpa. Sorry. He did get a target in the end zone though, or 2. He just didn't catch it. But sorry, mea culpa. Right. So luckily I didn't get fall on Sanu here. I loved the big ones were obviously DJ Moore. Where's Debo? That's my bike punk. All in play. Debo, or not all in, but Debo was an all play. I talked about him a lot. So between Debo and Moore, I mean, if you were just following the sheet and Ridley, the only turd of the 4-stars was Mohamed Sanu. But you got Debo Samuel, 20 plus points. And now Russell Gage value. What does that mean? 3,300. He got a few passes. The game didn't wind up with a script where they needed a whole lot of him, but he did okay. He was very high owned in the tournament. I'm going to call that a turd, though. That was not a winning call. But Deebo Samuel, yes. Calvin Ridley, hell yes. Mohamed Sanu, no. DJ Moore, yes. Right? Made value. And of course, Michael Thomas crushed value. We had warnings of all of these other guys. I think Michael Gallup had a really, really great game. I think Jameson Crowder did fine. Marquise Brown. I got to find a Marquis. I'm working on a nickname for Hollywood Brown. But, crash and burned. A couple of these plays worked. A couple of them didn't. Not much more to really go over here. I had a bunch of tight ends. I didn't want to put, I had Ross Dwelly in there. I don't want to put every tight end on the list, but Ebron did fine. Olsen did fine. Jared Cook did fine. Mark Andrews did great. Like all of the tight ends actually that we identified did really good. Griffin was not on the list. Man, I didn't even have the... I almost used Godert, by the way, Pablo. He was dropping passes like crazy, but Godert was in my lineup for a moment. And finally, defense, it's a fucking crapshoot. So the all play was just pay down for the Cardinals. We talked about it on the Players Club pod. Now I'm trying to see if there's anything else I can break down. Do any of you guys have questions? Like, it's so important. I really wanted to point out this, that a lot of people don't understand. When you look at the optimizer and projection system, they don't sort by value. And you could sort by fantasy points if you want. But the most important sort that you ever do, and this is twice as important in NBA than it is in NFL, but it works across all sports. And I want to teach you guys who are with me, who watch these videos, who pay attention, who give a fuck about being good. I want to teach you how I do it. And I'm trying to figure out what's the least biased way. How can I take my cognitive bias out of this? And because, you're nervous, it's a high dollar lineup, or it's your cash lineup for the week. You're putting a lot of thought into it. And at some point you start to get your own biases. Well, I don't want to play him. He fucking sucks. Or, oh, that team. Driscoll, he fucking sucks. Who the fuck is Driscoll? I don't want to play him. He fucking sucks. But we want to take so how do you remove your bias from it? Use the projections. So what I do is I sort by fantasy points per dollar, right? And I start to see, okay, this guy is the top value on the slate, DJ Moore. So that was the big decision point. I was like, man, I can't afford Michael Thomas and DJ Moore. And then I started looking, and it's like Michael Thomas usually gets about 11 targets. And I'm like, DJ Moore gets about 11 targets. Like, I can save $4K and get the same number of targets for this player. Now, so yeah, the defense is one of those things where like you choose it right and you can go to you win the tournament, which is why with defense, I don't want to just throw in the cheapest one in big tournaments all the time, because the winners of the tournaments yesterday all had Atlanta, right? They picked the right one. Points per dollar. This is key. Do you guys have questions? I'm starting to look over to the question thing because we're getting to the end. I wanted to share my process, but again, if you go through these position group by position group, you'll see the players I used are the top points per dollar plays, right? Everybody else was a drop-off. I'm going to use Tevin Coleman. Why? You're going to use Zeke. Why? You're going to use Devin Singletary. Why? Is he a good projected value? No. These guys are down the list. They're not a good... Hey, Marlon Cheeto Mac is out this week, guys, so we have our value spot for... We have our value spot maybe for week... for week 12. We'll see. But these were all top points per dollar plays. And I was trying to allow the projections to dictate. When I ran, here, watch this. You know what? Watch this. This is going to be mind opening. Let's run it raw. And you're going to see some players popping in that were in the lineups. And you're like, oh shit, I didn't do anything here. Now, you know what? Let me take out these two fucking turds. So you're going to see like Hill and Sanders, right? So let's say I decided I didn't like these two guys. And this is where people are like, well, how would I know who not to like? Or how do I know? I just made a decision. I don't want to play this guy. So let's see. I didn't like I thought it was bad chalk. So let's see what happens. realistically, I'm just going to uncheck these guys and let's see what happens. I'm not saying it's going to produce the exact lineup, but you're going to see a lot of the players that I played. Look who comes up. I mean, I have not fucked with the projections. I just pulled out the two guys. I went, look at this lineup. I pulled out the two players that I decided to fade. Look who pops up without me doing anything else. No work. This is a good fucking lineup, by the way. This is great. This would have won you a tournament potentially. I gotta get it. We're gonna set up the Dom station so that it has so we can back test and have future. Guys, are you watching this? Buffo on the beat. Are you fucking looking at the screen? Jeff Driscoll, Josh Jacobs, Alvin Kamara, 20, 35. Michael Thomas, 30 points. D.D. Westbrook, didn't work, 7. DJ Moore, 20 points. Greg Olson, good game. Debo 7, 20. These are all the players. My lineup was just this, except I took out Michael Thomas. And do it like that. And Buffalo, I'm going to tell you something. It's not about quitting playing GPPs because I put my cash lineup into tournaments like this. What you have to stop doing is, you want to talk about being profitable. First of all, this was a new experience for me because I rarely concentrate my entire effort on a single lineup. I've never done it before. I like to make a lot. And I did make a bunch of lineups for DraftKings, but it was all with the intention of crafting it for this contest, right? And I had a few and they were floating around. My best lineup of the week was the one I went with. But it's not about cash games specifically. It's about smaller contests. Take a cash style lineup and just, you can enter it in some cash games, a $50, a triple up, a quad up, but also little contests, a 35 entrant tournament, a 150 entrant tournament, a 275 entrant. Those are winnable, right? You could do really well in those. But if you're trying to attack the $5 contest because it's got a $500,000 top prize and you're going to go up against 10 million other people, the issue is in those type of contests, leverage is more important. Leverage and game theory is more important than being on the good plays. Correlation and leverage in massive tournaments. And you have to split it in your head. Notice in this lineup, I did not stack the quarterback. He's a standalone play. Kevin, you can't fucking run a quarterback standalone. It's fucking ridiculous. Yes, I can. It's a cash game and he was cheap. I wasn't expecting him to get me 27 points. I wanted 15. If he gets me 15, I'm still in the tournament. Where is it? Where's my lineup? I only wanted 15. I got 28. He matched Lamar Jackson. That gave me a massive edge on the field. It gave me enough of an edge to go up from Miles Sanders to Dalvin Cook or Kyle so I want you to think about the difference here. People ask me, what about this choice, man? How did you make that? Think about the choice. The choice was Lamar Jackson and Miles Sanders / Brian Hill, which a lot of people did, or Jeff Driscoll and Kamara or Cook. The rest of the lineup doesn't change that much. Let's say I used Michael Thomas. I would have had to give up McCaffrey. I would have had to play someone else. But that was the key decision point, to go all the way down at quarterback, except that I was assuming I would get about 20 points less. Don't worry about sharp players, John Rios. Play your GPPs if that's the way you like to play. But stay with the higher stakes, lower number of entrants, because that massive entrant contest is so tough to win. You have to have so much perfection that there's a certain mindset that's really good. That's what Burns is all about. Burns is a fucking genius when it comes to this, right? I wanted to bring up Burns's Millie Maker lineup. Okay, let's do this real quick. I moved on from, I've talked about my lineup enough. Feel like, Kevin, shut the fuck up about it. Let's talk about Burns's 9th place finish. Burns is a DFS Army staff member. He writes the Shark Autopsy and Millie Maker breakdown articles every single week. And if you guys aren't reading it, you're like crazy. Why? This is a guy who does not mass enter. He doesn't put in 150 lineups. He puts in like 20 a week, and he's finished top 10 in the Millie Maker twice this year. He's been to the King of the Beach. He almost made it with the King of the Beach. Didn't make it. All right. But he's been to the King of the Beach. But he's also finished top 10 in the DraftKings Melly Maker twice this year, including this week. Now, what did he do here? What do I talk about for tournaments? Correlation. Stacks around your quarterback and secondary correlated. Our Domination Station Optimizer is literally designed to create lineups that look like this, and you're going to see how it works. We have our quarterback wide stack system, game stack, team stack, and then we have our secondary stack system, which is unique. No one has it. It's been producing tournament winners. Again, if you're going to try to win tournaments, understand you lose money almost all the time until you win the tournament. That's the challenge. Now, Burns come in top 10 twice this year. He ain't losing money. Like, he's already in the profit, especially because he doesn't max enter them. But it's very rare. Most people don't have the skill. Most people don't have the skill to come in top 10 out of 150,000 people twice. There we go. Somebody in chat just posted the Shark Autopsy series of articles. And I think a lot of them some of them are open to the public. If you guys are not DFS Army subs and you're watching this, check those out. But let's look at his lineup real quick. I just want to do a GPP breakdown. John Allen, John Brown, the Sheriff, stack. Secondary stack, Christian McCaffrey. What was the secondary stack? Oh, Josh Jacob. There's a secondary stack. Oh, yeah, here we go. Christian McCaffrey, Calvin Ridley, secondary stack. So he's got the quarterback, wide receiver combo from the Buffalo-Miami game. That's a single stack. He's got a secondary stack, wide receiver, opposing running back. Top value play. Irv Smith Jr., somebody we talked about. Wow. If he goes with by the way, I hate to say it, but if he goes with the Jets, Ryan Griffin, and he stuck with the DFS Up North core play, he wins $1 million. Ouch. But still awesome. Saints defense went with pay up defense. You're not generally going to win one of these if you pay all the way down. I love the Saints defense play because everybody was liking the Tampa Buck players, but we knew, Winston's a turnover. I literally said on the Players Club podcast, they don't call him Jameis Pick Sixton for nothing when I was talking about Saints defense. So anyway, secondary correlated play, really beautiful lineup here. Single stack, correlated secondary stack. That's how you build them. Ask Burns in chat how his lineups come together. This guy does it so consistently. It's amazing. So that's how you attack a tournament. Totally different from the cash game. And I just wish he would have, not played Miles Sanders and found somebody better or something like that. He could have, Parker, Devontae Parker could have worked. By the way, he should have played Parker. Parker, look, I don't understand how he didn't. That was probably his own cognitive bias, because if you look at the Dom station, one of the top values at wide receiver who wound up having a great game was Devontae Parker. He's right up there. And I know people didn't play him. Devontae Parker put up 20 plus points. He crushed. So just look at this again. This information was available to every DFS Army subscriber. You see almost everybody in my lineup. They're all here. Other plays that were great. DJ Chark exploded. Devontae Parker, big game. Christian Kirk had a good game. Look at these names. In hindsight, I didn't change the numbers. In hindsight, the wide receiver, they fucking killed it. 8 out of 12. You know what the rate of bust is for wide receivers? It's like 80%. And yet here, something like 80% crushed. What are the chances? That is good projections right there. It's spectacular. That's what I use every single week. And I do it more in NBA than I even do in NFL. You guys are playing NBA. If you're not relying on the projections, you are doing NBA the wrong fucking way. I know there's some DFS Army people here. Subscribers, you must rely on projections in NBA. They're very important. Late breaking news and projections is how you get the edge in NBA. Yeah, Gage, Sohail, that's right. I don't hate, I don't care. I like the Gage plays going up against the right. They don't always work. They don't always work. You go back to wide receiver. They don't always work. But I mean, you give me most of the great plays. We talked about Calvin Ridley as well. And he became a better play after Bradbury. It wasn't reflected in the projection, but we talked about it. Gage, 6 to 8 targets. I'll take it. Did he produce? No. D.D. Westbrook. I'm curious to see. Yes. D.D. Parker is a thing because the Dolphins are going to throw a lot. They're another team that can't move the football via the run. They have Kalen Ballage, who is so fucking bad that he's almost unplayable. I think they're going to give this guy Laird a shot because Kalen Ballage just, every time he goes out there, it's pretty rare that an NFL player, it looks bad, like they're not good at football. But Kalen Ballage legit looks like a very bad player. Like he sucks. And most players don't suck. Most players are fine. He looks like he fucking sucks. Like he just does nothing. And he fell into the end zone for a lucky touchdown. There was no way I was touching him. So that's it. I'm going to wrap it up, guys. If you have any other questions, now is the time. Or else we'll just wrap this bad boy up. Start getting prepped for week 12. Another big game coming up. But before that, I'll have a breakdown of tonight's showdown. Where my turds at? Give me a couple hours for that one. Figure around 3:30 to 4 p.m. today. I appreciate you guys watching this. Again, if you're watching this video, that means you want to get better at DFS. You're putting the time and the effort into it. You're doing the right things. I'm always here to help. I love the people who want to learn. You guys, you asked me for a fucking lineup. I ain't getting one anyway, but I want to teach. I like to talk. I like to teach it. I like to teach strategy. I don't know all the answers. All I know is an approach that works long-term. I'm a profitable player. I've been playing since 2011. I have over $1 million in entries. I have well over $1 million in winnings. I'm up a few 100,000 over these years, and hopefully a lot more after this weekend. Let's do it. Thanks for popping in, guys. And again, like and subscribe. I'm supposed to say this at the beginning. Please hit a like if you like these videos. Just like it. That way I'll do another one. Subscribe to the channel. That way, and ding the little bell. That way, when I make another video or when any DFS Army, like Keg does NBA breakdowns every single day, when these happen, you'll get a notification and you can watch it. You want to be good at DFS, you should be watching this shit. Like and subscribe. And if you want to join DFS Army as a VIP subscriber, this is a special. We've got a special promo code for this week, KOTB, in honor of King of the Beach. 20% off for VIP. It's $39.99 a month, all sports. We're not like other sites with quote-unquote fake-ass pros that have no tools, okay? We are a legitimate site. We have our own tools, our own projections, our own optimizer. We don't send you to someplace else to go buy an optimizer. Then what the fuck are we doing? Or what the fuck is that? We have it all. Completely unique. No one has access to this shit but us. There's a reason our members, why when we send out screenshots most of the time, it's not me, it's our members that are winning, that we show the screenshots of our members winning. I design the tools to help our members win. I get more excited for a member when I swear it than I do for my own. So that's what I love. I love seeing the tools pay off. I love seeing Millie Maker winners hitting. You know, I spent all offseason designing the redesigned NFL stacking system that no one has anything even remotely close to. We are the state-of-the-art NFL optimizer and stacking system in the world. There is no one who could do it. Steve, most of the stuff can be done on mobile, but man, you can check. You should not be mass multi-entering off of a mobile phone. You should not. You know what I do when I just have my cell phone? I just run the optimals. I just run the optimal, right? Because I can't fuck around too much on the phone. It's too small of a screen, and there's no way I'm trying to make 150 lineups doing that. Hell no. You're going to lose money. Don't do it. If you don't have a computer with you, just play one lineup or two. You don't have to mass multi-enter to be profitable at DFS. You don't have to. I make more money crafting one handcrafted lineup. I mass multi-enter. I like winning tournaments. I like to post a screenshot. I like to post a screenshot of big wins. Thanks, Cliff. I do. I like to post it. So I'm mass multi-entering. That's a lot of it, man. I know my profitability is way higher on just handcrafting lineups off of the DOM or playing the optimal in NBA or making a few quick swaps to the optimal. The way I work NBA is I'll kind of play the optimal or I'll run it. And then like if the coaches in DFS Army, the pros that we have, and Keg is back this week, I'm doing all the notes. If they have some core plays, so I'll make 3 or 4 iterations of it, but all based around projections. If I have to slap a love on a player to get him to show up, I will, and you'll get something a little bit different. So then I'll usually do 3, 4, 5 handcrafted lineups for NBA. I'll also mass multi-enter it. Steve, the columns do sort. I just want to point out they absolutely sort. There is, yes, you can sort by fantasy points per dollar on mobile. I showed somebody, I took screenshots and showed somebody. I guess it's not intuitive, but there's a little window where it says salary, and you can click on that and change it over to fantasy points per dollar, and it will sort. You absolutely can do this on mobile using the domination station. Again, I don't recommend making 150 lineups using mobile, but yes, I do the same thing. I sort by fantasy points per dollar. I do it for basketball. I always do it. The first thing I do for NBA is I sort by fantasy points per dollar. I don't understand how people don't do this. Like, I'm now explaining it because I thought this was something that everybody just did. A lot of times that's a problem. Buffalo's only got 50 left in his bankroll. How would you suggest diving it up for a beginner? Put most of this into either cash games, head-to-head, like double up, that kind of thing, and very, very small tournaments. Don't put your whole 50 left. I mean, if that's all your bankroll, that's save half. I don't know. But make 2 lineups. Don't make just one. Make 2. Have them be like cash/hybrid lineups. Make one with one quarterback. Like this week, I was struggling with 2 approaches. As you saw with Hunter, kind of showed him my secondary approach. He ran it just to see what happened. So, yes. Browns asks, is Boomer done with pods? I don't know. Boomer's focused on doing the projections for us. He could do a pod if he wants, but right now he's focused on projections. He's going to do sheets on occasion as well. So I've told, I've talked with Boomer with NBA projections are very, very important, and our ability to adjust our projections at the last second is what gives us the edge over other sites, and that's because we do it manually. And right away, we don't wait for like data to percolate through data systems. Like as soon as a team announces players in or out, we've got manual people making those adjustments. That's what gives us the edge. So part of that was, listen, I need that edge is more important to me than other things. So that's why we're focused on that. But Boomer's out there helping out, answering questions. When you say posting my exact lineup, I mean, I don't know. I posted the lineup. Like, what are you asking me? You want me to tell you what my lineup is before I play it so that you could play it too? You want to buy lineups from me? There are sites that sell lineups. You can go there. If you don't want to learn how to play and you just want like me to make a lineup and then you to copy it, go somewhere else. That's not what I'm about. I don't have the hubris to think that I should be selling lineups. I think people who do that are assholes. And what I'd rather do is teach you my approach and then let your skills come through. Because I didn't win $1 million this week, but one of my staff, one of my members almost did. Because he did his own thing. That when Bobby Klinkert won $1 million, I didn't tell him, like, he put a play in there that I didn't use. You know what I'm saying? So, like, no, I don't want to sell lineups. I don't feel like I don't want to have 1,000 people running the same lineup as me. Because sometimes I lose and it fucking sucks to have 1,000 people lose together. It feels miserable. My stomach can't handle it. And B, I want to teach you guys how to play. That's what I've always done. I'll do my sheet. You guys do what you got to do. Steve, you're not a dumbass, man. The fact that you're in DFS Army means you're a brother to me, and I love you. But if you leave, you're my enemy. Grades. Grades are a matchup-based number. So when you're looking at, see, we're going long. I love it. When you're looking at the grades, these are based on the matchup. It's a matchup rating. There is some factor in terms of value on a points per dollar basis. But this is a matchup-based number, right? So what does that mean? What does that mean? These actually, I should have listened to it on D.D. Westbrook. But what this is saying is D.D. Westbrook doesn't have the best matchup, right? But what the projection is saying is he's so cheap on DraftKings that even with a pretty bad matchup, he should be able to make value. Right? Do you understand what that means? I don't know how. So we have a matchup rating. It's based on the total fantasy points per the game. There are a lot of factors that go into grades. There's the game total, the team total, DVP numbers, matchup. They're basically the shit that we look at when we're evaluating players. We put it all into a number. And that's what the grade is. I worked on those numbers myself. The system, again, it accounts for value to a certain extent, but it also accounts for DVP, matchup rating. Again, like the Statsational model that we show every single week, where we have a factor that looks at how many points, how many yards opposing team on average allows to wide receivers, and what if an average team, what an above average team, below average. There's a lot of factors that go into the grade, but they're definitely not the end all be all. They're just a guide. So what this was telling us was that, the Colts are better than average against the tight end position. That, for all intents and purposes, that and this has a low game total, so the chance of this play exploding was lower than usual, as opposed to the guys who did explode, like DJ Moore had a great game, and I actually think the grade is wrong on Moore because Atlanta's defense seems to have completely transformed itself in the last few weeks. We can't fuck around with Atlanta right now. They're playing great defense, so what the hell's up? I don't know. Debo, good spot. Above average. Tyler Boyd in a good spot, above average, but he's not been that great. So these are the reasons why these matchup grades come up the way they do. And of course, Michael Thomas facing Tampa, the worst team, and he's been the best wide receiver. So of course, it's got the 100. Look at running back. Look at the grades. I mean, Josh Jacobs, we liked him for a reason. McCaffrey, of course. Zeke, great grade, great matchup. But Zeke Elliott has not been that good. And he wasn't justifying his salary, which is why he's lower on this list. Yeah, I've got to see about this Williams character. Jalen Samuels is in my early build, and I want to see who this Williams guy is. I've got to talk about Nyheim Hines. So I think that the value this week is going to be whoever the starting running back is for the Colts. Jamal. Somebody said, I haven't even seen it. Jonathan Williams. I got to see it. I remember the name Jonathan Williams, but I thought they had some other backup running backs. So I have not studied it yet at all, guys. But that's going to be one place we're going to go. All right, guys. Since I don't see more questions coming in, we're going to end it here. Thank you for joining me. I'll be back later for the Showdown Breakdown. Where my turds at? I'm working on a t-shirt. It's not ready yet. Fuck, the t-shirt won't be ready until next year. But I promise I will do a Where My Turds At t-shirt giveaway. Showdown, breakdown, t-shirt giveaway by the end of the season. Thanks, guys. See you later.